Hello, girls. I hope you're staying safe at home. Today, we will start with a new chapter, sense organs. Okay, so the sense organs helps us to be aware of the different conditions of not only our external environment but of our internal environment as well. The main sense organs in our body are the eyes, which is sensitive to light, ears, which is sensitive to sound, tongue, which is sensitive to taste, nose, which is sensitive to smell, and skin, which is sensitive to touch. And apart from these, there are other senses like senses of balance, body movements, hunger, thirst, pain, to name a few. Now, the actual sensation is actually perceived or received by the sensory cells which are located in these various organs. So, these cells are known as receptors. That is, receptors are the cells which receive the sensation, okay, and then it is passed along the nervous system. Now, what are receptors? Receptor is any specialized tissue or cell which is sensitive to a specific stimulus, okay, a particular stimulus. For example, we have mechanoreceptors. These are receptors only for touch or pressure of skin due to mechanical change. We have chemoreceptors. These are receptors only for chemical substances, because they come, like, they perceive because they have chemical influences, like receptors of taste of the tongue and smell of the nose. Photoreceptors, these are rods and cones. These are cells in the retina of the eye, and it is due to light. Thermoreceptors, thermo means heat or cold, okay, these are heat or cold receptors in the skin, and it is due to change in temperature. And then you have phonoreceptors. Phono means sound, so these are receptors for sound and hearing. So we have a particular receptor for particular type of sensations. Okay, now moving on to the eyes. We have two eyes. They are located in deep sockets or orbits of the skeleton on the front side of the head. Each eye, is in the form of a ball, and it can be rotated up and down, round about, and this rotation is done with the help of six muscles in all. Now we have two eyelids, the upper and the lower eyelids, and they are movable. They protect the outer surface of the eyes, and when you close, it will shut out light. Each eyelid, has curved eyelashes. And what is the function of these eyelashes? To prevent falling of larger particles into the eye. Now, next, eyebrows you have. Okay, so these eyebrows are actually not a part of the eye, but they are protective because they do not allow the raindrops or the trickling perspiration from getting into the eyes. It drops down from the forehead and spreads across these eyebrows. Next, we have tear glands. Biologically, it is known as lacrimal glands, and they are located, as you can see, on the upper sideward portion of the orbit. So the location is here. There are 6 to 12 ducts. From the lacrimal gland, it goes into the eyes and pours the secretion on the front side. So here you can see there is another lacrimal gland which takes the secretion, that is the tears, into the lacrimal sac, which is located here. So lacrimal sac temporarily stores the tears, and then there is a connection between the eyes and the nose through the nasolacrimal duct. Okay, that is why sometimes when eye drops are put, you can feel the taste in your throat after some time, because the medicine will move along the nasolacrimal duct and it will reach your throat through the nasolacrimal duct. Now, the movements of the eyelid, we keep on blinking our eyelids. Okay, so when that is done, it spreads the liquid equally throughout or evenly throughout the eyeballs, and it acts as a lubricant. It is watery, so it does not allow friction. It reduces the friction, because if we continuously imagine our eyes were dry and you are continuously blinking it, what would happen? very soon you'll start bleeding. Okay, so the tears also keep the front surface of the eye clean by washing away dust particles. If dust particles enter your eyes, automatically what happens? Tears will fall from your eyes. So when it falls from your eyes, it will wash away the dust particles as well. And remember children, it also has an antiseptic property due to the presence of an enzyme which is known as lysozyme. So since it is antiseptic, it kills the germs if it enters our eyes. Okay, now next, tear ducts. Now these ducts drain off the liquid into a sac lying at the inner angle of the eye. Okay, so I already showed you here. So from here you have the lacrimal duct which takes the tears into the lacrimal sac. Okay, and it remains there. And then I already talked about the nasolacrimal duct also, which takes the secretion into the nasal cavity. So I already told you that when eye drops put, it comes into the nose and even into the throat, and you can feel the bitter taste. Okay, so this movement of the eye drop is taken place through the nasolacrimal duct. So due to irritation, sometimes something gets into your eyes, or in certain emotional states, you're very happy or you're very sad, the tear glands pour out a lot of liquid which waters the eyes or overflows as tears. Okay, so of course you shed tears when you're very very happy or when you are very very sad, so in extreme grief or in extreme joy. Now the function of the tears, your first assignment, you're going to write down. Please write down the function of the tears. The first function is it lubricates the surface of the eye, it washes away dust particles, it helps in killing germs, and it communicates emotion. Now next we move on to conjunctiva. Now conjunctiva is a thin membrane covering the entire front part of the eye. Okay, and it is continuous with the inner lining of the eyelids. It's come up from the eye, it continues along the inner lining of the eyelids. Now over the cornea, that is the front part of the eye, it is reduced to a single layer of transparent epithelium. Now of course it has to be transparent because light has to go into your eye. So in the cornea, that is the part that you see, okay, it is transparent. What is transparent? Conjunctiva is transparent. Now of course you all must have heard about a disease, conjunctivitis, and many of you must have got it also, where your eyes become red. Okay, and this is due to a viral infection. Now the bony orbit socket, eyebrows, tear glands, and conjunctiva serve for protection of their eye, okay, in their own different ways. Now next we move on to the structure of the eyeball. Okay, now the wall of the eyeball has three layers, concentric layers. Concentric means circular layers, isn't it? Outermost is known as sclerotic, middle is known as choroid, and the innermost is known as retina. Now the sclerotic layer is also known as sclera. It is made up of tough fibrous tissues. The tissues are very tough, they are very fibrous, and they are fibrous and they are white in color. So you have a white portion in your eyes, don't you? So that is the sclerotic layer, okay, that you see. Okay, and then that sclerotic layer is visible through the conjunctiva. If you remember, I just told you that the conjunctiva and the cornea in the front part of your eye is transparent. Okay, so it bulges out and becomes transparent in the front region where it covers the colored part of the eyes. Okay, so the colored part of the eye, as I told you, is known as the cornea. Sometimes the cornea of some patients turn opaque, white in color. It is non-functional. Okay, so you've heard about these people are blind, they cannot see. Okay, you've heard about donation of eye. Okay, you need to donate your eye once you're dead and all that. Okay, so what happens actually, the cornea remains alive for about 40 hours after the death of the person. So if the eyes are donated, then the eye is removed within 4 hours after death. It is stored in an eye bank. Okay, and then wherever required, the defective cornea is taken out. Okay, and it is replaced by a healthy cornea from a donated eye. So that way, a blind person whose cornea has turned opaque and it is non-functional, the person is blind, will be able to see if he or she receives eyes which are donated. The second concentric layer of the eye is known as the choroid layer, and the choroid layer is richly supplied with blood vessels. Why? Of course, you know, oxygen must reach the eye, nutrients must reach the eye, so the blood vessels provides nourishment to the eye. It contains a dark black pigment in our body, you know, it's always melanin, which prevents light rays from reflecting. Remember, what is the function of the black pigment that is found in the choroid layer? It does not allow the light rays to reflect and scatter inside the eye, so that the vision is clear. In the front of the eye, the choroid expands to form the ciliary body containing circular muscles. The smooth muscles in the ciliary body, it changes the shape of the lens. We'll be doing about the lens. Hold on. So now next is the iris. Okay, is an extension of the choroid. It partially covers the lens and leaves a circular opening in the center. The opening in the center through which light enters the eye is known as the pupil. Now the blue, black, brown color of the eye is actually the color of the iris. Okay. Now the iris contains radial muscles, circular, so radius is there. So along the radius there are muscles. Okay. So the iris has radial muscles. Why? Because it helps in widening the eye, and circular muscles in circles to constrict the pupil. So there are two muscles in the iris, radial muscles, it widens, and circular muscles to constrict. Constrict means to make it smaller. When we're talking about the pupil, we're talking about the tiny hole through which light enters. Okay. So this adjustment of the size of the pupil, it regulates the amount of light entering the eye. So this size of the pupil, sometimes it has to be bigger, so that more light can enter. That happens in the dark. And then it has to constrict. That pupil, the hole must be smaller so that less light enters. That happens in bright light. Okay. So you can see this. You can try it yourself. You take a torchlight into the eyes and you switch on the torchlight into your eyes while looking in a mirror. In dim or dark light, the pupil is dilated, becomes bigger, while in bright light it is constricted, it becomes very small. So the pattern and arrangement of the iris muscles is unique for every individual, just like our fingerprints. So that is why this is a source of individuals' identification. Nowadays you have retina, I'm sure in movies and all you must have seen, no, like the eye. You look into the eye and then the password is the eye, just like our fingertips. Each person has different pattern and arrangement of the iris muscles. It is not the same in all individuals. It is different in different individuals. Okay. Now next is the third is the retina, or the innermost layer, which is sensitive to light. Now the retina, the innermost layer, has two types of sense cells, the rods and the cones. The rod cells, the inner ends are rod-like, they are sensitive to dark, to dim light, but they do not respond to color. And remember, the rods contain a pigment, rhodopsin. Children, this is important. Rhodopsin is also known as visual purple. The rod cells are distributed throughout the retina. Okay. Next is the cones. The inner ends are conical, that's why they are known as cones. They are sensitive to bright light and are responsible for color vision. They contain the pigment iodopsin. The cone cells are mostly confined to the yellow spot. Okay, we'll be talking about the yellow spot, which is also known as the area of best vision. Now, just now I told you that the rod cells are distributed throughout the retina. So you can see the distribution of the rods and cones is not uniform. Okay, there is a particular spot which is known as macula lutea, or simply yellow spot, or fovea centralis. So any of these three terms can come in your paper. Okay, so you must remember all these three terms. Okay, so you will see that this spot lies at the back of the eye, almost at the center, straight from the pupil. If you take a straight ray of light right behind your eyeball, you will see that there is this spot which is known as the yellow spot, macula lutea or fovea centralis. So this spot contains the maximum number of sensory cells, especially the cones. As a result, this is the region of brightest vision. Area of best vision, region of brightest vision. If it comes in your one word answer, so you'll have to write down it's the yellow spot. And of course, this is also of the color vision. The rest of the retina, the remaining portion, has fewer cones and more of rods. So what is the yellow spot? Yellow spot is the place of best vision of the normal eye. That is why when you are reading, you will move your eye word from one word to the other word, because the light must fall on each word. You cannot keep your eye fixed on one word and read everything. Can you? No, you have to move your eye from one word to the other word so that you get the best vision. Okay, now next we have another spot in our eyes which is known as the blind spot. And blind spot means blind. This is the area of no vision. Now lateral to the yellow spot on the nasal side below the blind is the blind spot. There are no sensory cells here, no rods, no cones, because this is the point where all the sensory cells, the nerve cells from the retina, they come together and bundle up to form the optic nerve. Okay, so this is the point of no vision. So there I told you, at this point the nerve fibers from all the sensory cells of the retina, they converge, they come together, they bundle together and leave the eyeball in the form of the optic nerve, which goes to the brain. Okay, so children, another thing, the next assignment for today, okay, is to write down the comparison of rods and cones. That is this table you are going to write down. This is assignment number 2 for you. And there, children, you can experience your own blind spot. Okay, just follow this instruction and try and let me know in the WhatsApp group whether you were able to like successfully conduct this experiment or not. Now next we come to the lens. Now the lens is a transparent biconvex crystalline body which is located just behind the pupil, just behind the opening, the hole through which the light passes through. Just behind that we have the lens. It contains transparent lens fibers. Transparent, why? Because light has to go in. Okay, so they are long thin cells which have lost their nuclei. Okay, these are cells only, but nuclei is absent. The lens is collectively held in position. Now it has to be held at the center of the eye. It is hanging there, so it is held in position by fibers which are known as suspensory ligament, which attaches itself to the ciliary body. Okay, now the ciliary body lies at the junction of the choroid and the iris. That is the point where the choroid and the iris meet, you can see, and itself is the part of the choroid. The ciliary body contains muscles again, because the muscles which on contraction and relaxation changes the shape of the lens. Now, for viewing objects at different distances, either near viewing or far viewing. So the lens are either contracted or relaxed with the help of muscles. The shape is changed. The shape of the lens are changed by these muscles. Now, next we come to the two chambers of the eye. Now remember children, another assignment is you will write down about the two chambers of the eye. The two chambers of the eye are aqueous and vitreous humor. Okay, sorry, chambers. The lens together with its suspended structures, okay, the lens is there just behind the hole I told you, and it is hanging there, divides the inner cavity of the eyeball. So supposing this is the eyeball, and there you have, supposing this is the pupil, and there you have the lens. So this lens is the dividing line, you can see. Okay, it divides the inner cavity of the eyeball into two chambers. Aqueous chamber in front of the lens, Okay, this is the aqueous chamber, and vitreous chamber behind the lens. Vitreous chamber. So aqueous chamber is the front chamber between the lens and the cornea, the front part. Okay, it is filled with a clear watery liquid which is known as aqueous humor. It is not empty. Watery liquid is here, which is known as aqueous humor. The aqueous humor serves in two ways. You will write down this function as well. It keeps the lens moist and protects it from physical shock. It refracts light. Okay, refraction must take place. Next, we have the vitreous chamber, which is the larger cavity of the eyeball behind the lens, and it is filled with a transparent, jelly-like, thick fluid, which is known as vitreous humor. What is the function of the vitreous humor? It helps in keeping the shape of the eyeball, because jelly like filling, so the shape, the round shape or the spherical shape is kept. Okay, and it protects the retina and its nerve endings. Retina is behind the vitreous chamber, inside the vitreous chamber, so the retina and the nerve endings are protected by the vitreous chamber. So next we come to how do we see. So this is whatever assignment I told you to do just now, that is all for today. Okay, now the four major steps in seeing an object. First, light has to enter, entry of light rays. So from the object it enters the eye through the transparent structures. What are the transparent structures? Conjunctiva, cornea, aqueous humor, lens, vitreous humor. Okay, then the focusing of image. First, the curvature of the cornea. A cornea is curved, our eyeball is curved, rounded. So it converges the light rays, and after that it enters the pupil, and then it goes through the lens, which converges them further to form an image on the retina. Okay, and the image on the retina is inverted and real. So inside our retina, the image of the object is formed, it is real, it is inverted. Next is transmission of nerve impulses from retina to the brain. The light energy of the image produces chemical changes in the sensitive cells. What are the sensitive cells present in the eye? Rods and cones. So these changes, it generates nerve impulses which goes through the optic nerve and reaches the visual area of the cerebrum. Remember, we did that, okay, in the cerebrum, where they give the sensation of sight. Whatever you see is actually seen by the brain, you can see. Now next is the interpretation by the brain. Our brain interprets the image in many ways. It sees the object upright even if the image formed in the eye is inverted and real inside the retina, but our brain sees the object upright. Okay, so this is all for today, children. From in the next upload, we will start from accommodation. Till then, children, stay safe. God bless you.